5 years. That's the incredible difference researchers found between people with the highest omega-3 levels and those with the lowest. One of the world's longest-running health studies revealed that higher omega-3 levels were linked to a significantly longer lifespan, a benefit comparable to reversing much of the damage associated with a lifetime of smoking. What makes this discovery even more surprising is that one of the best sources of omega-3 isn't an expensive supplement or a trendy health product. It's a simple, affordable can of sardines that many people overlook every day. So, let's imagine an extreme experiment. What if sardines were the only food you ate for an entire week? While I'm not recommending anyone actually do this, exploring the idea can reveal just how powerful these tiny fish really are. We'll look at the changes that could happen inside your body hour by hour and day by day, and by the end, I'll share whether this is something worth considering and what a healthier, more realistic approach would be. Before we begin, it's important to understand why oily fish like sardines and mackerel are often considered some of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet and why they remain a regular part of my own diet. Before we jump into the day-by-day effects of eating nothing but sardines for a week, it's important to understand why oily fish consistently appears in studies linked to longer life expectancy. The biggest reason lies in its powerful impact on the cardiovascular system. Sardines and mackerel are packed with two essential omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA, which help lower triglyceride levels, support healthy blood pressure, and reduce the tendency of blood platelets to clump together and form dangerous clots. These effects can significantly lower the risk of heart attacks and strokes. Even more importantly, omega-3s appear to help stabilize the heart's electrical activity, making dangerous rhythm disturbances less likely and reducing the risk of sudden cardiac death. This is one of the key reasons health organizations recommend eating oily fish regularly. But the benefits don't stop there. Oily fish also helps combat chronic inflammation, the silent process that accelerates aging and contributes to many of the diseases that shorten our lives. Unlike the redness and swelling you notice after an injury, chronic inflammation quietly smolders in the background for years, gradually damaging tissues and increasing the risk of conditions such as heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and painful joint disorders. By helping to calm this internal inflammation, oily fish may slow down some of the very processes that drive aging itself. The benefits of oily fish go far beyond protecting your heart. One of the biggest reasons scientists value foods like sardines and mackerel is their ability to reduce chronic inflammation, the silent process that contributes to aging and many of the diseases that come with it. This low-grade inflammation has been linked to heart disease, type 2 diabetes, osteoarthritis, and even brain disorders such as Alzheimer's disease. Omega-3 fats are among the most powerful natural anti-inflammatory compounds known, helping the body produce molecules that switch off excessive inflammation and support tissue repair. In a sense, eating oily fish regularly helps turn down the heat on a slow-burning fire that affects nearly every organ in the body. These fish also provide one of the most important nutrients for brain health, DHA. Since the brain is made largely of fat, DHA plays a critical role in maintaining the structure and function of brain cells, helping them communicate effectively and stay healthy as we age. Studies have consistently linked higher omega-3 intake with better preservation of brain tissue and a lower risk of cognitive decline. On top of that, sardines are nutritional powerhouses packed into a tiny package. Because their soft bones are eaten along with the fish, they provide impressive amounts of calcium, along with vitamin D, vitamin B12, selenium, iodine, and high-quality protein. Few foods offer such a dense concentration of essential nutrients in such an affordable and convenient form, which is why sardines continue to earn their reputation as one of the most underrated health foods in the world. Sardines offer even more advantages than most people realize. They are naturally rich in vitamin D, a nutrient many people struggle to get enough of, especially those living in regions with limited sunlight. They also provide large amounts of vitamin B12, which is essential for healthy nerves, brain function, and the production of red blood cells. Add in their high-quality protein content, and you have a food that delivers an impressive range of nutrients in a very small package. Another major benefit is their position low on the food chain. Unlike large predatory fish that can accumulate significant amounts of mercury. Over their long lifespans, sardines are small, short-lived fish that contain very little contamination. This means you get the powerful benefits of oily fish without many of the concerns associated with larger seafood species. When you look at the combination of omega-3 fats, vitamins, minerals, and protein, it is difficult to find another food that matches sardines for overall nutritional value. But this brings us to the real question: what would happen if sardines became the only thing you ate for an entire week? Surprisingly, the first changes during the opening days would have less to do with the sardines themselves and more to do with the foods that have disappeared from your diet. Because sardines contain almost no carbohydrates, your body would quickly begin using up its glycogen stores, the carbohydrates stored in your liver and muscles that normally provide fast energy. As these reserves become depleted, your metabolism would begin shifting into an entirely different fuel-burning mode. During the first few days of an all-sardine diet, one of the biggest changes would come from the complete absence of carbohydrates. Your body stores carbohydrates in the form of glycogen within the liver and muscles, and each gram of glycogen holds several grams of water. As these stores are depleted, a noticeable drop in body weight can occur very quickly, but most of that early weight loss is actually water rather than body fat. At the same time, insulin levels begin to fall because there is almost no carbohydrate entering the system. Lower insulin signals the body to stop prioritizing fat storage and start using fat as a primary fuel source. By the third or fourth day, glycogen reserves are largely exhausted, and the liver begins converting fat into ketones, creating an alternative energy source in a metabolic state known as ketosis. As ketone levels rise, many people report significant changes. Hunger often becomes less intense, cravings for sugary and highly processed foods begin to fade, and energy levels feel more stable throughout the day. Because protein and healthy fats are highly satisfying, appetite tends to decrease naturally. Blood sugar fluctuations become far less dramatic, eliminating many of the energy crashes associated with high-carbohydrate diets. Some people also describe experiencing sharper focus and greater mental clarity during this stage, feeling more productive and less distracted by hunger. As the week progresses and the body becomes increasingly adapted to burning fat and ketones for fuel, these effects may become even more noticeable, setting the stage for a very different metabolic experience than most people are used to. As the week continues, the benefits of the omega-3 fats begin to build on top of the metabolic changes already taking place. Levels of EPA and DHA gradually rise in the bloodstream, allowing their anti-inflammatory effects to become more noticeable. Some people may find that their joints feel less stiff, bloating starts to decrease, and even their skin appears clearer. Part of this improvement comes from the fish itself, but part of it comes from what has been removed from the diet: ultra-processed foods, refined carbohydrates, and added sugars. Without a constant stream of heavily processed ingredients, the digestive system often feels calmer and more efficient. Blood sugar remains stable throughout the day and night, which can contribute to better sleep quality and more consistent energy levels. By the end of 7 days, many people would likely feel lighter, less swollen, and more in control of their appetite than they did at the start. However, this is where an important reality check is needed. While sardines are undeniably nutritious, many of the positive changes experienced during that week are not exclusive to sardines. Similar improvements often occur whenever people remove processed foods, excess sugar, and refined carbohydrates from their diet. The steadier energy, reduced bloating, improved blood sugar control, and fewer cravings are often the result of eliminating unhealthy foods rather than the fish alone performing some kind of miracle. That doesn't diminish the value of sardines, but it does remind us that one of the most powerful health interventions available is simply reducing the amount of highly processed food in our daily lives. While the results of a week-long sardine diet might sound impressive, it's important to keep them in perspective. The truth is that many of the benefits people experience during that week are not unique to sardines themselves. Much of the improvement comes from eliminating refined carbohydrates, added sugars, and ultra-processed foods, changes that almost anyone would benefit from regardless of the specific diet they follow. More stable energy levels, fewer cravings, reduced bloating, and better blood sugar control are often the result of removing unhealthy foods rather than relying on a single superfood. That's why eating nothing but sardines is not something I would recommend as a long-term lifestyle. While some individuals thrive on very low carbohydrate or ketogenic diets, most people find them difficult to maintain over time. More importantly, restricting entire food groups can mean missing out on the diverse range of nutrients and fiber-rich plant foods that support a healthy gut microbiome and overall well-being. A single week of eating sardines is not going to add years to your life, just as one unhealthy week is unlikely to undo years of good habits. Longevity is built through consistent choices repeated over months and years. The strongest evidence continues to support a Mediterranean-style eating pattern centered around whole, minimally processed foods. This includes plenty of vegetables, legumes, fruits, quality protein sources, healthy fats such as extra virgin olive oil, and regular servings of oily fish. Time and time again, this balanced approach is the dietary pattern most consistently associated with better health, lower disease risk, and a longer, healthier life. When it comes to long-term health, consistency matters far more than extreme dietary experiments. That's why I wouldn't recommend eating only sardines for 7 straight days. The human body generally performs best with balance, variety, and habits that can be maintained for years rather than days. What I would strongly recommend is reducing refined carbohydrates, added sugars, and ultra-processed foods while making oily fish such as sardines or mackerel a regular part of your routine. Eating them a couple of times each week is a simple habit that can deliver meaningful benefits over time. The real power of these foods isn't found in a short-term challenge, it comes from incorporating them into a healthy lifestyle year after year. This is why the eating patterns seen in many of the world's longest-living populations tend to focus on whole, minimally processed foods, healthy fats, quality protein, and plenty of plant-based nutrition rather than restrictive extremes. The conversation around ketogenic diets highlights an important distinction. Many people use the term keto when they really mean reducing carbohydrates, but true nutritional ketosis is much more restrictive. It often requires limiting or avoiding foods that are otherwise considered highly nutritious, including beans, legumes, certain fruits, and other fiber-rich plant foods. While some people thrive on a strict ketogenic approach, it can be difficult for many to sustain over the long term. More importantly, reducing dietary variety may also reduce the amount of fiber available to support the gut microbiome. Those beneficial bacteria rely on plant fibers as a primary fuel source, helping to produce compounds that support digestion, immunity, and overall health. For that reason, many experts believe that focusing on whole foods and minimizing processed products may provide many of the same benefits people seek from low-carb diets, without requiring such strict limitations. In the end, the goal isn't to find the most extreme diet, it's to find a way of eating that nourishes the body, supports the gut, and remains realistic enough to follow for a lifetime. Those trillions of bacteria in your gut rely heavily on fiber from plant foods to survive and function properly. When that fiber is consistently missing, the diversity of your gut microbiome can begin to decline within just a few days. This creates a strange situation where a diet might look clean on the surface, yet quietly undernourish one of the most important systems in your entire body. That's why the approach of focusing on whole foods is so central to how we eat. Most meals in this pattern contain relatively low amounts of refined carbohydrates, and any sweetness tends to come from natural sources like a couple of dates as a snack or a simple dessert. Despite their natural sugar content, dates are rich in fiber, which slows digestion and helps prevent the sharp glucose spikes you might expect from sugary foods. In their natural form, these foods behave very differently from processed sugar because the fiber matrix changes how the body absorbs them. This is where the bigger picture really matters. Eating well is not just about removing ultra-processed foods, refined carbs, and added sugars, it is equally about including the foods our bodies are designed to thrive on. Foods like oily fish, leafy greens, nuts, beans, and whole fruits with their fiber intact provide the nutrients our physiology has adapted to over hundreds of thousands of years. When you eat this way, you are not just avoiding harm, you are actively supplying your body with the raw materials it needs for repair, energy, and long-term function at a cellular level. As a doctor, I often think people overestimate how much medicine actually contributes to long-term health. Much of modern medicine is about managing symptoms rather than addressing root causes. In reality, the most powerful drivers of health are the daily choices made around food, movement, and lifestyle. It's an interesting thought experiment. Imagine a world without doctors, hospitals, or medications. In that world, survival would depend almost entirely on how you eat and how you live each day. And in many ways, that highlights a simple truth: the strongest form of medicine is not found in prescriptions, but in the habits you practice consistently over time. The food you choose and the way you treat your body every day often has a greater impact on your long-term health than anything a clinic can provide.